All right, now, Kateline, you had some guests in town. I couldn't wait to tell you what my dad had turned me on to. And then I said, oh, wait, never mind. I'll save it for pod. Now, it's been, 48 hours since that text, and I'm curious, what are you thinking it is? Do you have any ideas?
I have no idea. I don't know if it's a show, a movie, another podcast, a band.
Nope. It is actually a car. Maybe I knew this, and I forgot it, and I'm learning it again. But apparently, for one calendar year, there was a car made called Curtis with a K. Kateline, did you know that?
No, I know the Cutlass. So, did your dad admit that he named you after this car?
No. Actually, I don't know where they got the K in Curtis from. I know where my sister's name's, like all the actresses she's from.
Do you know who I am?
I don't know who inspired the Curtis. Maybe it is this guy, because this guy's buddies with the Peterson guy with the ugly museum in L.A.
Right.
But there was one year where they made it where you could just buy a coupe or whatever. And I have a picture of it, and it just says Curtis on the front. And so I told my dad, he goes to estate auctions. I said, if you can get anything Curtis brand, like a keychain or an ashtray or whatever, that says Curtis on it with a K, I want it. I told him. What do you think?
What if he can find the car?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty sweet. But here's the thing. The 1 year it was in production was 1949. Like, there's no air conditioning in there. And so it's off the table. I don't want it.
Not in your climate, no.
Not in any. I can't ever go back. The J-Dub was the last car that I had that didn't have heat. No, it had heat. Had hella heat. It's the last vehicle I will ever drive that does not have air conditioning. Okay? But anyway.
I don't think Car Kate ever had a car without AC.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah.
Not a one.
No.
Car Kate entered the game of transportation with air conditioning. Wow, dude.
And power windows. Power locks.
All those things, these are all things that I didn't get until like 3 years ago. The Jeep didn't have any of this, so I'm living it up.
I'm Lester Holt.
All right, so this episode, howdy, Holtheads. Kurt Money here. Alongside me is my co-host,
Kateline.
And we are here to discuss the season 32, episode 36.
Here's Josh Mankiewicz with Evil Walk Through the Door.
Originally airing April 19th, 2024. Two murders in Toronto ignite an investigation that spans 4 decades. Breakthroughs in investigative genetic genealogy help crack the case. I think we got a packed episode today. Kateline, what about you? What'd you think about this Dateline?
Well, as you know,
yeah.
I had some guests in town. And Gilmour and I watched it together.
Oh yeah! You promised me a take from Gilmour.
I don't think you're ready for this take.
Okay, well look, I'm sitting. I'm ready when you are, or we save it for later.
We watched this episode in its entirety in complete silence.
What?
We did not chat during the show. We didn't talk about potential theories or connections. No commentary whatsoever. Dead silence.
What? What's up? Why?
You weren't ready for that.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't, because you watch this shit with her when you're in her stomping grounds. You watch it, so do you not talk about it when you go home?
We probably watched 20 Datelines over the last weekend, but they were all old ones. A lot of them we'd seen. And we were chatting through those.
Including one that Lester Holt was actually the host in it.
But this one...
Not a word.
Not a word.
Okay, so does Gilmour's silence reflect Kateline's feeling of the ep? Did you like the ep?
I liked the ep, but I think the silence reflects the fact that this episode was unique because there were no possible suspects after a certain point. So there weren't, as viewers, we weren't able to make theories because we just didn't know. And the cops didn't know. It was all open-ended.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh yeah, it's going to end up being this person we met 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Nope.
But what makes it so awesome is, you're right, we can't make a guess. But when we do get to the end, all of a sudden, we have a clear-cut pool of suspects. it's going to be one of these people. And that's pretty awesome.
Yep. I thought it was great. And I do think that we were silent because we were riveted.
Okay, that's good. Now, I have been down, look, we're not going to talk about it up top, but it's in the cold open and stuff, that this is another one of the genealogy success stories.
This is technology that is cutting edge.
Now, usually that's where my arms get crossed of like, yeah, we're over it. They kind of fly through it enough for me. And I actually appreciated when J-Mank tried to explain the DNA end. Because even though I've heard people try to explain it to me a million times, I mean, I still don't get it. Do you?
What don't you get?
I don't know what's in the little squares. What are you canceling out from? I don't know how to phrase my question in a form where it makes sense or fun to hear. My brain breaks when I try to think. I mean, but here's the weird thing. I don't know how that blue goop works with the DNA. That never bothered me. You know, when they squirt the goop into the gel? I don't know how that works. There's something about this genealogy thing where it feels like I should be able to understand it.
I think,
What about you?
I guess I was under the impression that those little squares on the charts were representative of like the double helix, and those are gene pairs, and it's just matching gene pairs.
When you say just matching, you literally can go, here's a gene pair, and you just go to another gene pair that has the same number structure or whatever?
I am not a scientist.
Yeah, me neither, man. I was this close, though. Okay, well, this story, we didn't even mention it. This baby takes place in Toronto, Ontario. This thing's in Canada, straight up.
Canada.
That's right. And, boy, you know what? I like this. Okay, here we go. The episode begins in 1980 in a very nice...
I don't think it's 80. I think it was like 83.
I'm going to double check that date just so I don't have to go back. Because what's crazy is the second one was the first one. Yeah, you're right, 83. Well, actually, it might be the same year.
Yeah.
But the second one they talk about happened first. That's a fact.
Good, honey.
So we are a few days before Christmas. 22-year-old Erin Gilmour is found dead in her bed by her boyfriend. What happened on this 911?
He went into her house and found her laying in bed with the covers over her, dead.
Emergency?
Emergency, please come as soon as possible.
Now, when he calls 911, he says, please send someone quick. There's been a suicide.
Yeah.
And
this is my first question.
this is suspicious, obviously, because it's like, how does he know that? How could he possibly think that? Is that him trying to hide the fact that he killed her?
What's the problem?
Someone committed suicide.
Okay, stay on the line with me.
Hurry up, please.
But I will say that he pulled the covers back and he saw her face down, dead. I don't think he could see any kind of bullet wounds or stab wounds. I think he just...
What about being bound and stuff? I mean, she was tied up.
I don't know if he could see that. Like, he pulled the covers back and then maybe just ran to the phone.
Yeah.
And then what? Put herself back in bed and covered herself up?
I don't know that I would immediately be suspicious of him because although we do see photos of him and he has crazy eyes.
He does. But now, wait, I got to correct you there. We see a photo of him. And that one black and white photo is from a newspaper that they enlarged. Like, you could see the halftone, like you see the print of it, that this is clearly an enlarged picture that was used in a newspaper from 1983, okay? So this, my little brain, I'm going to pull Kateline. I knew for a fact he didn't do it because that was the only photo we saw of that guy, and that's it. And I think because it was in the newspaper, it was public. Like, it was legal for them to do it. Like, they didn't have to blur because that photo was in the newspaper. What do you think?
Well, I also didn't think it was him because it was 1 minute into the show. And it's an hour and a half.
You're right. You're right. I don't know why I'm trying to act like I'm cool or something. Yeah, the show just started. Okay, cool.
But he did have crazy eyes. He did.
He did. All right, so yeah, Erin dies, and the family is notified, and we meet her younger brother, Sean, who is one of our main talking heads.
Sean was on a mission.
Oh, yeah.
I think Sean loved his sister very much.
Yeah.
He dedicated the rest of his life to helping find her killer. He wasn't boots on the ground trying to investigate, but it consumed him, I would say. And we heard from other family members who echoed that Sean was just completely devastated and was holding out hope that her killer would be found.
Yeah, he describes finding out where he wakes up and his entire family is in his bedroom. His mom is sitting next to her and just says, like, Erin's gone. And he punched a hole in the wall.
And then I literally leaned over and put a hole through my wall.
You punched the wall.
Yeah.
I liked this guy, though. He seems sweet and stuff. I mean, he's been doing this for 40 years, right?
I liked the whole family. They were a very well-known, wealthy family in Toronto. And typically that might kind of annoy me, but they're Canadian, so they're sweet.
Yeah, that really helped him out a lot in this episode, is that a lot of people were Canadian sweet, but also genuinely sweet. Mm-hmm. They were wealthy because Erin's dad was the first guy to promote Fiji water.
Her dad was pretty well known back then.
He was.
He was the first guy to market Fiji water.
That's correct.
From which I gather he made some money.
You'd be correct.
Now, this is a loaded sentence, Kateline, and I'm sorry we got to spend a few minutes on it. Do you remember this or no? Do you remember them talking about this on the show?
I do.
Because it's not the guy who invented Fiji water. I mean, I guess that would be God. Right? I mean,
He's the first guy who thought, let's bottle it and sell it and market it to annoying people.
is that what they're saying?
I don't know.
That he was the first?
It's confusing because that would imply that he's what, like a marketing executive? But then later we hear he had some real estate dealings overseas. So those are completely different businesses.
I think that they were being sticklers in not wanting to say that he invented water. So they said that he was the first one to promote it.
I gather he made some money.
You'd be correct.
Is Fiji water the first water bottle? I mean, maybe it was the very first one.
I don't know.
Who knows? I loved hearing that little fact. And also, hey, Sean, come to Hollywood, baby. You could sell that idea to Netflix tomorrow, right? The idea behind the founder of the guy who decided to sell water, is that not like an Unfrosted or the Fritos movie, the Beanie Baby movie? Tetris. Like, it's a genre now of like good businessmen who succeed at making money. Sounds like Erin's dad. Primo contender. What do you think?
You might be onto something there, Kurt.
You can be anything.
So this is in 83 when this happens. And even though the Toronto police are on the case, they're doing what they can. This thing goes cold. Because, as cops and other people love to talk about, Galen, they didn't have like DNA and technology and stuff in 83.
They did not.
Okay.
All they were able to do was blood grouping.
Yep.
So they could take blood from the scene and they could tell what kind of blood type it was. And if there were two different blood types, they knew they had the killer's blood possibly, or that someone else was there. And since this involved a stabbing,
yeah,
one of the detectives notes that it's very common in a stabbing for the killer to also stab themselves accidentally, and
of course,
there's usually different blood at the scene.
Oh, yeah. The reason why they cut themselves is usually because they'll hit the bone, but they'll be in such a rage, they'll keep going, and so the hand will slide down and they'll just grab the blade. Ouch, man. Knives are like scary, dude. No, thank you. Okay, we go through the 80s and 90s. Nothing's doing. No new evidence, nothing. We got the blood groups, but that's collecting dust.
They did look into who around her may have had motive, opportunity. They knew that there's such a high-profile family that maybe there was something that the family was doing that could have gotten her killed. So they followed this weird path of looking into Erin's dad and his business dealings over in Saudi Arabia, I think?
Yeah, from 5 years before the death. And 3 years after that deal fell through.
So he was trying to put together a building development deal over there, and a lot of people in Saudi Arabia opposed it, and it eventually fell through. So they thought maybe this could have been some kind of revenge thing. It was a stretch.
Yeah, it's kind of a Murph dog move. And I like that J. Mink addresses it by going, so they'd kill his daughter? Like the way you said daughter was good.
Yeah.
And they'd take it out on his daughter?
Wow. It's a wild theory, but we have nothing else, so we have to look into everything.
Okay, so we like Sean. We like the fam. They seem like they're sweet people. But we gotta talk about what's up with the corner of the house that has literally 75 frames on the wall, 50 frames on the piano, and then all other walls within eyesight, not a picture to be found.
Yeah, this really bothered you, huh?
It's weird, man. We all love a good Dateline, like walk, a B-roll character moment. Like they had some good ones in here where Sean just walks to the front of his house and turns, looks at it. Strangers like, why am I on TV? Like, that's the good stuff. And so they did one in the house where he just walks by all these frames And I can't get over how many friggin' pictures there are. Do you think they did it just for the shoot?
No.
To me, those photos had been there.
No, that was just the way the house was. You could also see that the photos continued into the hallway behind that room, but only on that visible wall.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And my question to you in the text was, because when I say that there were 30 frames on the piano, there might have been more, right? We're not exaggerating. I'm going to post a picture of these frames. There's a ton. And I asked you, when was the last thing that piano was tuned? Because who's taking all those things off and tuning it, putting it back on again? It's not happening, Kateline. It's not happening.
And I told you that I like when there's stuff on the piano, like awards and little statues and knickknacks. But I will say, it was a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was pretty awesome. Years pass, Sean's checking in when he can. Now, DNA progresses a little bit. We get to 2000. This is when the Toronto police find out that there was another murder around the same time as Erin Gilmour's murder that links their case, potentially, right? Or is this when they get the confirmation? Is it in 2000 when they get the confirmation?
Well, I'm not sure on the date, but they run the DNA from a bunch of old cases, and they realize that Erin's case and another case from before that time match. So they have a repeat offender here.
Yeah, and they had no idea what the hell the connection was between these two people, Erin Gilmour and this other person who was named Susan Tice, who was 45 years old, and she lived on the other side of town.
Here we go. That's looking interesting.
They think about the time that Erin had this huge party, and people showed up who weren't not invited. It turned into this big rager, and it was kind of out of her control. But they managed to get a list of all the people that attended, and they ran all of their DNA too. It's like 30, 40, 50 people at this point, and none of them were a match. Once they realized that these two murders were connected, they started looking into who would have had access to both of these women, since they were so different in backgrounds and where they lived. They kind of ran with this idea that they both had used a house cleaning service.
Oh!
So
you're right.
The detectives tracked down this service all these years later, and the guy who runs it, he said he didn't remember cleaning Susan's house, but he did remember cleaning Erin's, probably because it was such a high-profile thing. And he even remembered who cleaned it with him. And he provided DNA and gave the names of those people, and they got their DNA, and none of them were a match. They did use that same service, but that wasn't it.
A month and a half later, get the news again, nothing.
We got to sit in the victory of finding that guy working at that store for a second. Because the cops, I'd like to think they got a night out of it, where they drank too much and slept in and woo! The odds of a guy still being at this cleaning service 30 years later is pretty crazy, right?
17 years.
17 years?
Because wasn't it 2000?
Well, whatever.
Yeah, it's wild that he was still there.
Yeah, so he's still there.
But if he owned it, I mean...
Oh, he did?
He was the owner, yeah.
Oh, I didn't remember that part.
Sure was damp today.
And now when we're talking about Susan Atkins, the other victim, we meet her side of the family.
Susan Tice.
Oh, my God. Susan Atkins. Ah! So the second half of the episode, we meet the family of 45-year-old Susan Tice, mostly her son. What'd you think of him now? Did you like him?
I thought he was so expressive.
Yep.
He seemed like he would be an actor.
My father wasn't happy with it. She was flexing her independence, her womanhood. You can't stifle a forest fire. She was just a force.
Or at least he reminded me of an actor.
Ah!
But
yep, sorry.
But I can't figure out who. Did you?
Okay.
Who? Tell me.
I don't know the guy's name, and I think this is wrong. I want to say he reminds me of a Chicago actor. Okay?
That's probably because he's Canadian.
Right. Okay, so far so good. But also, is it the guy who was the boyfriend in Rookie of the Year?
I am so sick of hearing about Chet Stedman.
Take it easy.
You take it easy.
I gotta hop to the goog. Because, Kate, every time he talked, I was like, you look like a guy, but you also kind of sound like a guy.
He looks and sounds like a guy, yeah.
Yes.
But I couldn't put my finger on it.
I'm a guy. I'm a guy.
And the soul patch, I don't know if that's part of it.
I was going to say he probably does act because he's got that soul patch. So acting is very much a possibility.
The way he moved his mouth, I was fascinated. He made so many big expressions.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to watch him.
Let me be really straight with you, Josh.
And,
I ran away.
Yep.
Let me be really straight with you, Josh. I ran away. I retreated.
Yeah. I mean, I like these Canadians, man. What's not to like?
Yeah. Okay, I've got Rookie of the Year up. Right now, we're going to stop things dead in their tracks for me to say, oh, I think Bruce Altman is his name. I'm going to send you this link.
Henry's been sold to the Yankees.
They sold me?
You can't do that.
Of course I can. I'm the manager.
I think this is who I'm thinking of. And I was right, Chicago. Well, maybe not Chicago, but Rookie of the Year Chicago movie. From New York. Okay, whatever.
Oh, that guy.
What do you think?
That's not who I was thinking of, no.
I mean, I'll pull a clip.
I brought in Reebok. I brought in Pepsi.
But I thought the same thing, that there's something actory about him, because this guy, he's got it. And I'll tell you what, I kind of wanted him to give lessons to someone we're going to meet very soon. Okay? A guy I also love and stuff. But boy, was he a snooze. Okay, so after 2000, they got this info. They get all these cool leads that end up not being their guy, because they keep sending it in for DNA and it comes back no match.
This is the guy? Who are you?
So it goes cold yet again, and we're somewhere around the 2014.
At one point, the detective said that they had looked at like hundreds of people.
Yeah, and this was fun. I've got two phrases that were said tonight that I think are the Canadian versions of ours, because 2 times I went, huh? And the first one was boots on the street.
You follow him around the same way you followed around Erin's boyfriend?
Absolutely. What else do you have to do at that time? It has to be boots on the street.
He didn't say boots on the ground.
Not boots on the ground.
You said boots on the ground earlier, and that's what reminded me of it, that it was weird. So I thought, okay, is that a Canadian thing? Now, the second one I'm about to say, I think is when they're talking about cell phone stuff, they say data bank instead of database. How about that? Huh?
Yeah. That's
I didn't know that. I mean, I guess I got to fact check that.
Oh yeah.
He was on the National DNA Data Bank.
But anyway, I thought it was crazy. Boots on the ground is way better than boots on the street. Take a hike, boots on the street.
Yeah, because it encompasses all forms of pavement, grass, gravel, dirt. We're not necessarily talking about just the street.
That's right.
I just kept hoping somebody would come out of the bush.
So then a little case starts to happen in the 2017-2018 time called the Golden State Killer Case. Now, give us a little review on this, Kateline.
So, with the help of Patton Oswalt's deceased wife,
true crime author Michelle McNamara, and my favorite talking head on Crime to Remember,
they were able to find the Golden State Killer with this new DNA 23andMe type technology. And this was just the start of so many cold cases being closed because of this development. And like we've said before, it can kind of be a bummer because it makes a lot of these cases just very, I don't want to say easy, because obviously we want these cases solved, but it doesn't make for good Dateline.
You know what? I wonder if it's because this episode is a great example where my official stance must be rescinded that I have anything negative to say about genealogy, because all the shit I love was in here about wanting to find DNA, and then the fact that when they found, like, the family stuff is fun. I think you just got to know how to tell a story, and guess who knows how to tell that story? J. Mank and Dateline.
J. Mank.
Yep. I think that's what it is.
They're inspired by the Golden State Killer being found. And we've seen these genealogists before, right? This company that they used.
There's a few. It's not the one that we saw most recently. I've seen these two before because they're married. That was the other thing, because
they're married, and I recognize her because she's clearly a Sephora VIB.
That's so funny, because I was gonna say I thought she was a babe.
Oh no, she is, but she also knows how to wear makeup.
VIB. Boom. There it is. That's funny. You know, I was shocked to see a dude up in the mix when we're talking genealogy stuff, because it's almost exclusively women who figure this stuff out. And then the guy showed up. He married into it. So I think it is a lady thing. What do you think?
She's the brains behind it, clearly.
Yeah. There's something about, I like noses that aren't normal. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
I kind of liked her nose. her nose is weird. And I was like, I like it when noses are weird.
I've definitely seen her before in a different show.
Yeah. With that same nose?
With that same nose.
Anyway, they're in here talking smart and...
Talking smart.
But I guess we could decide when to talk about this guy. There's another forensic genealogist that will get discussed who wore glasses and said, hey, I'm just the bird dog here. I'll be doing the bird dog and thank you.
I'm just the bird dog. I just point at the bird, and then after that, it's their job.
Remember this guy? Okay, he only discussed one of your list items in 4 different ways, backwards and forwards. Okay.
A missing puzzle piece?
Yeah! You don't remember the puzzle guy?
Yeah.
He was talking, right? Okay, anyway, pinning that for later. All right, here we go. Where are we at? We are, I know. So they do the genealogy thing and they get it narrowed down.
He narrows it down.
This awesome guy, he does his bird dog. And
I'm just the bird dog.
This guy does his thing and he narrows it down to 26 families. And either they get the DNA from a lot of those families to eliminate it, or they do it one by one. But from 26, they just keep narrowing it down further and further. And finally, after several more years, they get it narrowed down to 1 family.
And I think you're right that everybody did just say yes and gave their DNA. So another Canadian point, I think.
Who would do that in America?
None.
Who? It's insane. It's insane that everybody throughout the course of this investigation was like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
What? So the only time they don't do it like that is when they find this last family and they're like, we don't want to ruin this.
This is cool.
We don't want to tip them off, so we're going to secretly get the DNA from each living son, because the match that they found was their father or their grandfather, and these are the last remaining males in that family.
It had taken Atkinson and his team a year to prune the killer's family tree down to a single branch.
This part was crazy to me because they're looking.
This was so awesome.
They're looking at these 5 brothers, and also J-Mang says that you know of, because there could have been adoptions or secret kids or whatever. But
which we've seen.
We have seen that. But in this case, they're looking at these 5 brothers.
That's when I do my bird dog and say, here you go. Here's the 5 names.
And some of them have records. So obviously, they start looking at the ones with police records, especially because one of them was on the sex offender list.
Yeah. I mean, J-Manx where our heads are at.
So you go after the first one.
That's right.
We know where this is going to go, y'all, but let's go ahead and follow procedure here. You're right. So we go to the first one with sex offenses, and he did time. What's his story, Kateline? Where's he at?
He's dead.
6 feet under. One of the brothers is dead. 1 down. So they go to the next one. There might be actually 2 brothers dead.
Oh, yeah. The next one. He also had some kind of record, but he passed away years earlier. It's not him.
Oh, was he the one who died in the bar fight?
Yes.
Where J-Mink was like, Jose Cuervo plus men equals fist fights or something?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was awesome. The guy loved it, too.
That was alcohol plus guys equals murder.
That's exactly what that was.
He was killed in a bar fight, not him. Although, could have been. They didn't know.
At this point, you're right. Absolutely, it could have been this dead guy. And
Although,
now they have to go find the other ones.
I guess
You're right.
they had his DNA.
Yeah, I think so. Because unless there's something we're forgetting about the third one.
Yeah, what was with the third one?
Well, he had an alibi.
Right.
He was like out of town or something, right? And so, okay, so that third guy wasn't him. So now it's got to be one of these 2 brothers out of these 5. We got it narrowed down to 2. One of these killed both these women. Now, again, I just want to say that how cool it is that J-Mank and the Dateline crew made the trip. They talked about this place, which we'll talk about later too, about the size of it.
Well, there were 2 places.
Oh, you're right. Oh, okay.
Because brother number 4 and brother number 5 both lived in remote parts of Ontario. But brother number 4, who they went to next, wasn't as far north as brother number 5.
Right.
So they went to him
right.
and met with the Ontario Provincial Police detective.
Yeah.
And he helped them get the DNA of brother number 4.
Yep. And this is the guy who he does have a record. There's the spotless guy. There's a guy with a clean record and a guy who has a few things. And they leave the spotless guy and they check out the guy with the record. It's not him. So that leaves only the guy with a perfect record, which Everybody's screaming at the TV, of course.
How insane is that, though? 5 brothers and the one who's like the squeaky clean dad living in the small town who knows everybody and is really friendly. Not even so much as a parking ticket.
Yeah.
And the others have legitimate crimes on their rap sheets.
It was not surprising to me when they said it was, as soon as they said somebody had a spotless record, I knew that was going to be the guy. But also, that tells me I agree with them when they say there's more bodies. This motherfucker is a serial killer.
Yeah.
Because you do that to keep the beard up. Like, you have a normal family. Like Dennis Rader, all of them that were able to pull it off. Like, that's part of their kink. Is like, you guys think I'm normal, but I'm not.
They make that trip up to this super remote town in northern Ontario. It's very small. It is...
You gotta fly to get there. Right, or train.
You have to take the one train or fly in on like a tiny little prop plane. And yeah, like you said, J-Mank, he took that train. He went up there and he walked those streets.
J-Mank's there in the snow. Oh,
everybody, including us.
He did some great, like, here on Dateline, we like to do this. He had that a few times.
On Dateline, we tell a lot of stories about small towns where everyone knows everyone.
And this town is crazy because we're not kidding when we say everybody's got to be on this train to get in and out. And it sounds like it only runs once a day, or else we've got the most impatient wife of the world, right?
She was on me about the train because we didn't want the kids to miss the train to go back out.
Because you only got one car and you're going to go over to Georgia's.
That's right.
It's also how they get all their food.
Yeah, like supplies are on the same train. Boy,
it's wild. And I looked at it on the map, and it's actually not as far north as I thought it would be. But I'm also an idiot when it comes to Canadian geography, so I think it's like still considered pretty close to Arctic weather, but it's not as far north as like Alaska, but it's different.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm terrified of it, but I think it would make, I think that the last act of this Dateline would make a great genre picture of like a B movie or like a A24 thriller where it's like a cop and somebody else, they've got to arrest this family member, but they got to find out which one it is. But as soon as one of them finds out, they're going to go tell all the others. And then they'll like swap DNA and you won't know whose is who or whatever. That's good stuff, dude. As a matter of fact, no, but I'm cutting that out because I think wait, Kate, that's a good idea. I want to write that. Do you want to write that or no? I genuinely think that's a awesome idea.
You can write it. Cut it out of this. You can write it.
Okay, sweet. So the cops, like this team of 5 people, they bring a forensic scientist so they can do the tests there, I assume. So we've got this one brother left to get. He's the most remote, and now we're the most worried. He could know now, potentially. And
they can collect the DNA and be very sure about it.
Yeah.
They said that they were concerned when the forensic team went up there because anybody is going to notice if there's someone new in town. And they thought they were going to be tipping their hat, stepping off that train, bunch of city folk. But they laid low and played it cool. And this is where we meet a retired policeman who is living up there, who is friends with this final 5th brother.
This is the nice guy I was speaking of earlier who was kind of boring sometimes. But he's a genuinely nice guy. And guess what? He doesn't have to entertain me. That's not his job. Go ahead, Kate.
He seemed like a good dude.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So they need to bring this guy in, and they're like, we got to bring in SWAT, we got to bring in this, we got to bring in that. And that's when this nice guy Joe says, don't worry about it, fellas. Me and him are buds, okay? I'll go talk to him. And I'm thinking in my head, too often, even in this season of Dateline, I thought we had a happy ending on our hands, and it was not. It's like you stick around long enough, and it's all of a sudden, and Chris got murdered in Las Vegas or something, and we're not as happy as we used to be, R.I.P. Chris Tapp.
Right.
But I thought they were going to show up and this last brother was dead. Like, if this guy knows the writing's on the wall, why wouldn't he do that? And so now this is...
But he didn't know the writing was on the wall.
Wait, well, okay. So this guy, this retired police officer, he's in the process of gathering his kids up to get them on the train. Because like we said, if they don't get on that train, they can't leave to go to wherever it is that they're going. He gets a text from his buddy who's like, hey, I really need to talk to you right now. And he's like, well, I got these kids, the train. He's like, no, I got to talk to you. So he leaves the kids with his wife and goes to talk to his buddy. And his buddy says, listen, I did something I'm not proud of. And this takes forever to unfold. But what does this guy reveal to his great friend out here in the great north or whatever?
He tells him that when he was young, in his early 20s, living in Toronto, he did some home invasions. And his buddy's like,
Beanies.
That's okay, man, that was 40 years ago. Like, that's all right. And he's like, well, it was actually a little worse than that. I was doing a break-in and the woman was home and I stabbed her.
And then raped her.
And he was like, and then raped her. And his friend's like, okay, yeah, that's not great. And he's like, well, and also...
It gets worse.
A couple years later, it gets worse.
It's nice. It can't get any worse.
A couple years later, I did it again, and the woman in the house saw me. She saw my face, so I had to kill her. And he was like, okay, tell you what, don't talk to anybody. Stay here. Don't do anything. And I'll be back later.
Yeah.
And he leaves.
To go talk to his wife, who's blowing his phone up right now. Because these kids got to be on that train, right? This guy is saying he's a murderer. His phone's blowing up. His wife doesn't know what's going on.
Uh-huh.
So he goes home, tells her the stitch, and then what does he do? He straight up calls the cops at his spills. He calls a buddy who's still in the force. Is like, guys, we got him. We got to figure out a game plan. And then unfolds, I think, the best case scenario, right? I mean, ever, because...
Oh, yeah. This would never have happened in the United States.
Well, yeah, because...
They just, like, go to his house. They're like, hey, man, we got to take you in. We got to get your DNA. And he's like, oh, okay. Tells his son, I'll be back.
He tells his friend, when the guy comes back after seeing his wife and kids, he says, well, I don't know what to do. And he said, well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to turn yourself in. And the guy goes, now? Yes, now.
You've had 40 good years. And I said, it's time to do the right thing, man. It's time to give those families, their time. You're going to turn yourself in. You're going to do it tonight.
The SUV was outside waiting for him. And he's like, okay, let's go. Easy peasy. Like,
yeah. And they take him down to the station and we see body cam footage or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's just like chilling. And these cops are so respectful and nice. And they shouldn't be, honestly. They're like, listen, nothing's going to happen. You need to talk to your lawyer. We're not going to say anything to you until after you've talked to your lawyer. We're going to talk to him first, and then you can meet with him, and, we'll all be on our way. It's like, dude, if that happened in the United States, they would have swatted the house and maybe killed him at the house.
If he didn't kill himself before they got in there. Yeah.
If he didn't kill himself. Let alone take him back to the station and treat him like they did. Like, do you want a cup of coffee? You okay?
Yeah.
We're just going to wait for your lawyer. What?
Yeah.
I was laughing.
Every twist and turn was just like, wait, no, this is going too smoothly and politely. I don't get it. The cops are being nice. Everybody's got their rights going on. What's up right now?
And he was very polite when we were at the door.
But does he plead not guilty? Because they got a trial, right?
No, he doesn't plead not guilty.
Oh, okay. But one thing he doesn't do,
because he admitted it.
He admitted it to his friend, but he never spoke again about the crimes. How you feel about that? Now we already know because of what he told his buddy that they were both B&Es gone wrong, supposedly. Maybe he followed him there or whatever. What other answers could we get for these parents that they would want to know, even though the parents of one of them are RIP? What do you think?
Well, his lawyer advised him not to say anything. Maybe he was going to plead insanity?
Oh, you think it's one of those? Let's find out. Back to the gig we go. Oh, that was fun to say. We'll be saying that again. Hang on. Wait, we got to talk about this place called Moosonee. There are some great names here. Maybe you want to watch Northern Exposure.
Absolutely. Love Northern Exposure.
But wait. Kate, if I gave you a stack of that DNA info and I said, sort this, find the match, would you know where to begin?
No, Kurt.
Okay, good. Me neither. I can't believe how long this has taken me. I think I'm close. Joseph Sutherland. Thank you. So he got life in prison and he has to serve 21 years before he can apply for parole. But that's not guaranteed. Obviously, the guy's a monster and he got 40 years of a great life. But he's doing his time. I don't know. It's like, I'm like hesitating to say, hey, thanks, dude, for not killing yourself so that you can suffer a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I hate even like commending him for that. But I'm happy that we got as good an ending as we can at this point in the story.
Those Canadian detectives, they did not give up.
No. Okay, I think it's time we go to those lists. What do you say?
Let's do it. Kate's unnamed list.
Hit me.
All right. While the murders happened in Toronto, Moosonee is where the murderer was caught. And that is maybe the smallest town that we've ever seen on a Dateline. So I'm counting it.
Welcome to Moosonee, Canada. Population about 1,300.
It's certainly the hardest town to get to.
Yes, it counts. It counts.
That's a big one. That's a big dog, small town right there, dude. The fact that you got to get on a train and all that stuff, that is the smallest of small town shit.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool.
And I don't think they had a single stoplight because they probably didn't need it.
Yeah, what a nightmare.
Because cars, you couldn't drive to it.
Wait, did Mulder and Scully, they had to have gone to spots like that?
Well, they did go to like a glacier. They went up to the Arctic for that.
Wait, is that the thing one?
I don't remember there being, ice.
Ice. Of course, ice, of course.
I don't remember there being a town in that.
They
did go to Kroner, Kansas once. That was pretty small. That was in season 6, The Rain King.
Kateline was schooling me on X-Files recently because we were debating on what was the best episode, and we couldn't decide because we found the funniest and the scariest.
You gonna interrupt me or what?
So the only other thing on my list is the puzzle piece said 5 different ways.
Do you not remember that happening?
I do. I was just more excited about Moosonee.
Okay. I couldn't, when he kept talking about the puzzle, I was like doing laps around my couch, Kate. I couldn't wait to tell you or talk to you about it. And then you're like, which part? But he said puzzle. That's on that list.
It's like trying to put a puzzle together.
It really is.
And the problem is you don't have a picture on the cover of the box to guide you. It's like trying to put a puzzle together with all the pieces turned upside down.
His job was to assemble a genetic puzzle.
There we go. All right, well, now it's on to Kirk's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List.
I also have some list items today. Now, they're not bangers like Kateline's, okay? I've got 2 little ones.
2.
But they are straight up list items. Future Kurt here to scold both these fools in the current day. Current Kurt and Kateline both missed big old list items. First up, Kurt Money. Lady says horror movies, and I think it might even be in the cold open, dude. Way to go.
Well, it's a horror movie that is your life.
Kateline. J-Mink himself is talking needles and haystacks.
Finding the proverbial needle in this genealogical haystack.
You missed a needles and haystacks one. You two disgust me. I almost had struggle. Boy, did J-Mink. J-Mink said the word struggle.
A ferocious struggle.
But it was not with any of the other qualifiers, okay? There were no signs or nothing. So I didn't count it.
No.
Number 1. We talked about it earlier when the detectives were like, now mind you, we didn't have, this was before the time of DNA. We didn't have cell phones, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Boom. In there.
This was 1983. Digital police work was still science fiction.
That's an item. And then, oh my God! Kate, remember how last week, Okay, so do you remember how last week we had a list item on mine, which was movies, because the guy was wearing a Dick Tracy t-shirt? Do you remember this?
Yes.
Now, when I saw that t-shirt, I said, hey, that's a cool shirt. And then I said, hey, I bet it would be funny if I could get that shirt in time for the next record. If I was wearing this shirt and I was going to see if you noticed it, that I was wearing a Dick Tracy shirt. The shirt came. I was all set to do it. It came today. And I tore it out of the bag. So excited. And when I did, there was a funky smell. So I smelled it very aggressively, thinking it's just a shirt. But it had somehow, it was in its original packing, Kate, so it had disintegrated into black powder that went everywhere. And I straight up did like 2 lines of it. And I'm like, what is this? And so I take the shirt, and as soon as I pick it up, it shreds as soon as I pick it up. And then I shake it, and it looks like making it rain on a salad. It's like a pepper shaker. So I was literally gagging. It's outside right now. Like, I was like, I wanted to be able to show you on camera just to complete this stupid bit. And I couldn't even do that. But anyway, that happened today. Wasn't that kind of cool?
At first, I thought maybe that's why you were getting bloody noses. But you said it came today.
Yeah. No, that's still a mystery. Hey, that's a good cliffhanger for next week. Gee, oh man, I haven't even checked what's next week. Yeah, right.
Oh, man.
Next week episode is called Chameleon, which is also an old FF episode, which by all means watch, but you can bet that I'll be talking about the best parts of that episode next week, right here on ILH. Should I wrap it up? Are we already there?
Let's do it.
All right. Right here. Oh,
That's going to do it for us this week.
I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.
I brought in Reebok!